turnover about 1.7, 1.8 billion pounds, and we spend about £1 billion with lots of third parties. So my remit is the UK and Ireland, and I've been there about 4 months. So I'll cover this at the end about what I've been doing in the first 100 days. So part of my interview was, what are you going to do in your first 100 days, and is it going to be any good? So I'll tell you what I've been doing. But before that, it would have been such a nice day, I thought you'd all like an ice cream. Unfortunately, they're only virtual ice creams, but it has got a relation to the talk I'm going to give. So there's 3 scoops there. So the first scoop, the chocolate, is going to be talking about London 2012 and some of the challenges around that, and how would you buy such a big infrastructure project? And the second one, vanilla, is going to be about UK government, because I worked at DEFRA, and the challenges of that, where the government says, oh, we've no money anymore, we're going to stop spending. And then the third scoop, in the colour-coded to match the corporate branding, is Fujitsu. So what I'm going to try to do is weave these subjects through the next 25 minutes and just throw anything in that's interesting, I think. That's my challenge. So on the 2012, risk and delivery, all important. There's lots of innovation around there, and some of the previous speakers it's all been highly relevant, and when I reflect on that, you know, around sustainability and about risk and listening to the supply chain, there's some rich stuff there. Central government, we did lean procurement, so I'll talk you about what we did with that, and Peter from Mott MacDonald, that was all interesting and highly relevant as well. And then in terms of Fujitsu, what are we doing? And it's really supply chain is where it's at for us and how we engage with them. So 2012 then, so you know, the thing is with a programme like that, it's under the spotlight. So if you make a mess, everybody knows about it. So my plan when I started work here was, if it all goes wrong, I'm just going to say I've been inside or something, or, you know, I haven't worked on that programme because it was such a bad disaster. But it's gone reasonably well. There was some budget issues with omitting VAT, pricing materials in 2002 instead of when the build was taking place in 2008, 2009. That was a bit of an own goal. And then omitting security costs, which run over £1 billion easily. So few mistakes made from the bid side of things. But what we had was no procurement team. So we started off with 3 people, and we quickly needed to get to 120. You know, so how would you get 120 people who are going to know what to do? The big challenge was around construction procurement, where were the skills, and the public sector to do it. And there wasn't really there. So what we did do, we engaged with a delivery partner, CLM. Now CLM was acquired through the first competitive dialogue competition run in early 2006. So new legislation come in, and immediately we were tasked with trying to run a competitive dialogue. We spent around 2,500, 3,000 man days on that competitive dialogue, but it had to be to a tight timescale because this project will not slip beyond the end date, as you would know, unless you're Greece. And on the Athens Olympic, they were rolling the tarmac a week before the 100 metres dash, which gives you a slower time, obviously, because it's quite sticky. So no established supply chain, so it's a one-time event. Where do you get your suppliers from? It's public procurement, so it's Olympic Delivery Authority, so it all needs to be transparent and compliant to the procedure. So that was a challenge, and as you know, ODUs can take quite a long time, and we had lots of ODUs going through. We let about 5,000 contracts very, very quickly in the 3-year period I was there. So that was the challenge, the volume. So our tender event schedule was massive, and that's how we used to run it. So it was all red, amber, green. Was it on target? Was it in the end date? We had a very, very strong leader in the construction director. So any problems, I mean, one of my colleagues, his project wasn't going very well. I remember walking past his office, and he had hold of him, a bit like the Darth Vader would, and his feet was off the ground, and he was shaking him. So I mean, that's strong management. Sounds like my boss at the moment, actually. But so no policies, procedures, and things like that. So this is a greenfield site, really. If you set it up wrong, you've only got yourself to blame. It's all right getting a job where it's been running for a few years. You've got to know how to do things. Unfortunately, we went straight into putting e-procurement in, end-to-end, and really proven solutions. That was the way we did it. In terms of then, how did we deal with suppliers? Because we had 9 major venues to build. You know, very, very expensive. You know, an £500 million Olympic Stadium, an £500 million media centre. So NEC3 was the approach to contracts. The reason NEC3 was chosen was because it's collaborative. Now, what you can't afford with a programme like this is to get a third of the way in and you have a contract dispute and you down tools and stop, or else otherwise the cost just escalates exponentially. So NEC3 was used, and then we put in an arbitration panel to help resolve any ongoing contract issues. And the gain, pain, share that was talked about earlier, that was the approach as well. So that was the way that was done. Oh, just on the stadium though. I mean, one of the challenges was the Wembley fiasco. You know, we can't build a stadium to save our lives, can we, in the UK? Next minute we have to buy another one and try and build that. Now, there was hardly any competition because people were scared of the Wembley situation. There was only 2 bidders. Competitive dialogue again. And unfortunately, the Arsenal Stadium at the Emirates had recently been completed and was a great success. Apart from the fact that every time you took a truck into the site to deliver some materials, you had to give the gangsters a brown envelope to get in. That's reality. That's what was happening. But they still built it on time, and that was Lango. Who was it? McAlpines, I think. So that's the stadium. So supply chain then. This is interesting supply chain. We were really keen on flow downs down to the bottom. So things like you know, where do you source your timber from? All the raw materials are interested in all of that, and payment terms. So we were trying to pay people very, very quickly, and we were also interested in SMEs. So we had a dedicated supply chain team of about 8 people monitoring SMEs, what part of the UK and Ireland were they in, and also Europe, because we're part of the European Union, of course. Having said that, 95% of the ODA contracts went to UK and Ireland firms. And there's a fantastic scattergun picture of the geography of where all those contracts were let and the values. Because what was happening was a lot of this push on supply development was coming through the now defunct regional development agencies, who are now been retired, but at the time had a budget of £1.5 billion a year. But we're broke as a country now, so they're not allowed to do any of that. So this worked quite well up to about tier 3, if I'm honest. So it's okay flowing down, but then you get down to here, and I'm not in this scenario because this is about the aquatic centre, but you get down to people who are really, really small, and there may be one guy in a van, or it might be, you know, a very, very small organisation. So it's very difficult to get the penetration all the way through. But that was the aspiration. And the data was captured with it as well. So how did we develop the supply chain? Well, Compete For was an opportunity portal that was launched. I was responsible for that. I remember my boss saying to me, oh, we're going to have to launch this. And by the way, we've been thinking about it for a while, but it's going to launch in about a month's time. And so what we had to do then was get all our opportunities from ourselves and our other suppliers, our contracted tier 1s on the venues, to put their opportunities onto this. So we got in the end, we got over 5,000 opportunities on there, and we had 150,000 suppliers that registered. And there are some really good examples of, there was a guy who was blind, his team was blind, and they were the catering company on the Olympic site providing services to a couple of the venues, which is brilliant, really. Very, very small. And another one was the transport company was local people who got together, created an organisation and started to provide bus services around the park. So there's complaints as well, you know, but I mean, trying to do the right things is what it was about. And then there was a bit of a localism agenda if it was appropriate. Other than that, we went to Paris, we did road shows, what our opportunities was, we went to various other places, but there was a thing about trying to create as many apprenticeships and as many jobs as you could. Right, so that's the Olympic bit. So just a little bit then on UK government. So I worked at DEFRA after the Olympics. So the Olympics, we went down from 120 people down to 12, and I thought, well, it's getting a bit quiet for me now. So I thought, I'll have a go at this. 2009, and it was a bit of a department in a mess, to be honest. I remember walking in, and it was like going into cell block H or something. There was all these steel barriers with contracts in, wall-to-wall contracts, 6,000 contracts in cupboards, and I thought, oh my God, you know. And so this is a transformation map of trying to get somewhere in as short a period of time as you can. So there was multiple things running to try and improve on things. So scan all your contracts, 6,000 contracts, took about 9 months. So it was all held on a central database, and we were still paper tendering. So, you know, let's bring in e-sourcing platform. Let's have everything end-to-end electronic, and let's work with finance to create a shared service, and let's make sure purchase orders flow through properly. Because the aspiration here was to pay people quickly as well. Because by about, 2008, the economy was going funny. So 2009, the government was keen to try and keep businesses going. And so we were trying to pay people in about 10 days. So, as soon as the PO and the invoice was matching, we were trying to get the money out to them. I acquired a lot of interim staff, tried to move towards permanent. It's easier said than done in London, to be honest, because civil service salaries are not competitive with private sector in some cases. And then I think there is a shortage of skills in the procurement community, to be honest. My general broad brush feel on it is there's a third who are very, very good, a third are okay, and a third that I need to sharpen up a bit. And my team I've got at the moment, has got a bit of that about it as well. And Neil's one of my team, so I have told him that. Yeah. So we were definitely outdated, and so we wanted to get involved with lean. Now, we only tackled lean after about a year, to be honest, because I think you need to have a steady state and then attack it. So Peter referred to Unipart this morning, so we invited Unipart to tender, Booz Allen and Ernst & Young. And Unipart had been talking to central government, to John Collington and all these people, and the most arrogant sales guy in the world came in and did his pitch, and he thought he had it in the bag because he was working in the Cabinet Office. But unfortunately, his bid of £102,000 was for one man for 6 months. Ernst & Young turned up, 95,000, team of 6 for 6 months. They won. That's what we did. We did it with them. Targeted 20 core processes, and we created a lean zone like this room. We mapped all our processes on it, and I developed some of our grads and other people, and they lived it, and each of them owned a process, and they took it all the way through. And we got lots of people in from, local authorities, other public sector bodies who were interested, and lots of our internal clients as well to get involved with it. So it's very rich, rich experience. So I recommend it to anybody. We're going to do lean at Fujitsu. We have an internal team. I don't really relate to some of their language. I think it's homemade, actually. I'm saying, are you sure that's lean? It's their own flavour. So I'm just saying, testing that out a little bit at the moment. And then what we did want to do and what we did achieve, we did lots of work with ACIT around benchmarking, so I was keen on that. How do you know if you're doing all right or not? It's quite important for me. And then SIPs, I do buy into SIPs, although if I'm recruiting somebody, if the SIPs or not, it doesn't make any difference to me. I've interviewed rubbish SIPs people and good SIPs people. The badge doesn't make you a good procurer. And then we went for SIPs Gold, which was this thing where there's only about 9 or 10 organisations who got it. That's the highest level of accreditation, and we got that in about 12 months. And that was a kind of recognition of 16 modules that we went through were of a reasonable standard, and you would then get audited on them. And then in terms of money, saving money and things like that, we turned the taps off on consultancy spend. And it's funny because finance said, we're overspent by about 100 million. They never used to bother about the budget, you just spend it. And they said, and then Francis Moore said, you're not going to spend on marketing, you're not going to spend on consultancy. So we stopped the tap, and it just dried up. And before you knew it, within the financial year, we'd pull that 100 million back. And then I remember going to a meeting, finance was saying, oh, we've done some great work on budgeting and that, and we're back to zero again. I thought, you're on a different planet, honestly. Okay, so I thought I'd give you a picture of a sheep while you're near sheep in Bangor. So this is these are solutions we deployed. So we've talked about Bravo today earlier. Recommend that. Quite affordable. Also holds your contracts. And this thing around evaluation is very important, because I know, the old days of opening paper tenders and trying to evaluate, it's a bit of a pain in the neck. That this tool will allow you to compare answers together on the same screen, and then you get consistency of scoring and things like that. It just makes, for the people in the business who you're going to ask to do evaluation, it makes life easier for them. Because they're your stakeholder, and you're asking them to do lots of evaluations for you. And then contracts database, and then Oracle we use for requisition to pay, which is going to be one of my bigger challenges in my current role. So just in terms of collaboration, and I was talking to yourself about collaboration over a coffee just now, and this was forced collaboration. So there's me in the centre at the UK department, DEFRA, and then we've got about 95 arm's length bodies to talk to. So they said, oh, right, go and talk to everybody and just all start procuring together under the same umbrella. Right, okay then. Of course, all these brick walls appeared. We don't want to do it. Anyway, so what we did do was, there was a bit of legislation passed, and they wanted to rationalise. They chopped it down to about 40. And the top 18, we then got them round the table about sharing procurement. And then we looked at options, and we went for this option around 2 procurement centres, one in Bristol, one in London. And the model was driven by the Environment Agency, who was spending, a lot of money. DEFRA was spending in total about 1.5 billion, and it was about half each. So that's the way we drove it. And yeah, so there you go, London and Bristol, and then there's all these other organisations that we brought in. But adopting those was very, very interesting. And the resistance to change was, oh, well, you're never going to prove it. Unfortunately, we'd already adopted 3 before people even knew it, and then we had some track record, and we had some SLAs, and we've been measuring performance and things like that, and the service they had. So basically, instead of having a team of 4 or 5 people here, we were charging about 100 grand a year for the service. And they had a team of category managers and supplier relationship and contract managers. They had a much broader team to draw off. And then I pulled some of those people into the centre, and they had richer work because they're working on different work and different projects for different people. But it's not easy, all this people stuff. People don't want it. I don't want to change. I like sitting at this desk. That's just how it is, really. Okay, so in the last 6 minutes... so the challenge now then at Fujitsu is all around supply chain. Too many suppliers. They're all under pressure. So there's been a few firms go bust. So what we're looking at the moment is supply chain finance, where we're trying to pay them in about 10 days by the use of a supply chain packaging tool with Citibank. And what we're doing is we're going to target our top 200 suppliers. So if we spend over $500,000 a year with you, we'll talk to you and try and get you on the programme. And it's a very, very cheap access to cash. And some people are really, really keen on it. So, for example, one of our suppliers, Lorien, where we spend about £50–60 million a year with, they're very keen because, of course, they pay people weekly, and then they only get paid much later. So the cash cycle can kill them off. So they're keen on this sort of mechanism. It can really help them out. So we're keen on that. And then in terms of assurance then, we're keen on environmental credentials. So what's the water and energy they're using? We're going to capture that by use of a portal. Health and safety, anti-bribery and corruption is coming big style. So we need to capture that. We're also interested in the industry accreditations and SMEs. We're keen on SMEs as well, because about half of our business is with government or public sector, so we're keen on that. We keep getting lots of requisitions for data saying, you know, what's your supply chain like and how many SMEs have you got, things like that. So we do need to know that. So we need to get more sophisticated. And then in terms of supplier relationship management, I'm very, very keen on site visits and face-to-face meetings in the quarterly reviews. So what's been happening to date, it's been a bit ad hoc really. Some suppliers have had it and some haven't, but want consistency. And the reason we can do 100% of site visits with our Premier suppliers, the top 50, is because one of the quarterly reviews will be at the supplier site. And then we can do the visits and the audit at the same time. So it's free. I'm not sending out somebody out on a special trip. Interestingly enough, on the PQQ thing, the standard PQQ that came up in Laurie's session, I mean, I got involved in the standard PQQ in the Government Procurement Service. And, you know, the debate we had about it was, how does a standard PQQ work for a submarine versus my thing around, you know, procurement for people to kill badgers or catch chickens when I'm working at DEFRA? You know, the same PQQ. So we struggled with the concept about it, one document. So we went for templates. You know, it might satisfy 60-70%, and then you have to have a specific bit. PQQ, of course, is about the past, and the tender's about the current. What do you want me to deliver? So I think it's a bit of a tricky one, really, to force it through everything. But we were compliant with government procurement. So this is my supply chain dinosaur. My FD said, what happens if you chop the tail off? Does it fall over? Well, it's not fallen over yet, and this number's coming down, and it's now down at about 1,100. And we've got a little slick thing about reactivating people. And we do want to deal with SMEs. So what we're very keen on is independent software vendors and having a relationship with them. And I've been involved with a couple recently where we're giving them money and helping them develop their products and services, and we'll partner with them and help them win some bigger contracts and things like that. So we're keen on all that sort of stuff. I've introduced supplier events four times a year to get some dialogue and get some interaction going, get some ideas. I know at the Olympics, people always used to say to me, you know, if I've got a special widget, how do I get it into the Olympics? Well, what we used to do, we'd have massive events, you know, and we'd have, say it was security, we'd have 300 or 400 suppliers there for a day, and we'd have lots of procurement people there, and the specifiers, so not just the buyers, the specifiers as well, and we'd listen to what they were saying. But we wouldn't go for anything that was unproven. We'd only go for proven technology, because otherwise you've got problems then with implementation and things like that, and you can't take the risk. So that was the approach. So this is what I'm focusing on at the moment. So I'm very keen on the top 50, and I've got a load of question marks that I'm working at. And on requisition to pay, we're looking to do shared service. So at the moment, we had 400 people raising purchase orders throughout the organisation. And I said, that's ridiculous. You know, probably 10 or 15 people can do this. And then you get better codification, you get better data going through, and you get better management reports coming out. So we're chopping it down, and we're down to about 150 now. And so that's the way we're going to do that. We're also going to put in category management. So they've all been obsessed with vendors. I buy Oracle. You know, it's like speaking to some sort of robot or something. I say, no, you don't. You either buy software or hardware, you know, and letting you know you've got options around software and you've got options around supplier. Okay, down. So I'm out of time. Okay.
Thank you very much. That's great. Thank you.